Do you know the empire we now call Byzantine never used that name, and its rulers never stopped calling it the Roman Empire? After the fall of the Western Roman Empire, the Eastern Empire stood alone, and its rulers believed they were the true heirs of Rome. Even after the Eastern Empire started to rule in Greek, every law, seal, and title still proclaimed one name: Rome. The word Byzantine was invented centuries later, by historians trying to separate it from the ancient Roman Empire, borrowing the ancient name of Constantinople. For 1,000 years, the emperors of the Byzantine Empire believed they were Romans, ruling an empire that had never truly fallen. Do you know why Constantinople, the jewel of the Byzantine Empire, stood unconquered for over 1,000 years while kingdoms around it crumbled into dust? Constantinople was nature's fortress. It stood on a peninsula surrounded by the sea on 3 sides, with only a narrow strip of land leading to its gates. The city's triple walls were a masterpiece of military engineering, and when enemies struck from the sea, Byzantine ships unleashed Greek fire, a flame no water could extinguish. Byzantium's bureaucracy was filled with masters of strategy and negotiation. They bought off enemies, turned rivals against one another, and built their empire through espionage and alliances. For 1,000 years, no army could conquer Constantinople. It fell only when cannon fire made stone walls obsolete, but its legend never faded. Do you know that Constantinople, one of the most prosperous cities in history, defended attacks from nearly every major power of Eurasia for over 1,000 years? In the 5th to 7th centuries, the city faced the Huns, Bulgars, and a terrifying coalition of Avars, Slavs, and Persians who joined forces to bring Byzantium down. In the 7th to 9th centuries, Arab empires launched enormous assaults, fleets blockading the city for years, and over 200,000 men besieging its walls for a year. In the 13th century, crusaders from Western Europe and Venice, meant to fight in Egypt, turned their swords on Constantinople, toppling its emperor and looting the sacred city. For over 1,000 years, the walls of Constantinople repelled the greatest powers of Eurasia, standing as the shield that guarded Europe itself. Do you know that Constantinople, the greatest Christian city of the Middle Ages, was forcibly occupied by crusaders for 57 long years? For 57 years, the people of Constantinople lived among ruins, famine, and fear, while the Byzantine Empire split into rival states that fought each other for legitimacy. The Latin Empire, a fragile crusader kingdom forced onto Byzantine lands, was never accepted by the local population and turned Constantinople into a kingdom of ruins. Venice was the true winner, effectively controlling the Latin Empire, seizing ports and islands, and shipping the empire's treasures and relics back home. And after 57 years, a force led by Nicaea's Alexios finally retook the city. But the weakened empire would never fully recover. Do you know the Crusaders once turned their swords against the greatest Christian city of the medieval world, Constantinople? The Crusaders were bankrupt before they even began, and Venice, who provided their ships, used that debt to steer the entire crusade toward its own advantage. Prince Alexios Angelos, exiled from Constantinople, asked the Crusaders to help him reclaim the throne and promised them riches he could never deliver. Venice, unable to get the payment it was promised and long resentful of Byzantium's economic rivalry, pushed the Crusaders to sack Constantinople. The dirty truth is that a broken crusade, internal betrayal, and Venetian manipulation together led to the brutal sack of the greatest Christian city. Do you know how the Byzantine Empire lost the final siege of Constantinople after nearly 1,000 years of being almost unbeatable? The Ottomans brought an overwhelming force of 100,000 soldiers against just 7,000 defenders, and their giant cannons shattered the once invincible Theodosian walls. On the other hand, Constantinople faced the siege with starving citizens, unpaid soldiers, a vanished fleet, and an empire on the brink of bankruptcy. Then a small gate in the land walls was left open by mistake. Ottoman soldiers slipped inside, panic surged, and the city's defenses finally shattered. Some say the open gate determined the city's fate, but Constantinople was already exhausted. Even a 1,000-year fortress cannot stand once its power has collapsed. Do you know the background reasons why the Byzantine Empire finally fell after 1,000 years of power? It wasn't just because of a single lost battle. By the 1400s, the Ottomans surrounded Constantinople with overwhelming power and wealth. They controlled the empire's old homeland, southeastern Europe, and the seas around it. On the other hand, after centuries of civil wars, lost provinces, and political turmoil, Byzantium was no longer an empire, just a single isolated city fighting to survive. The final blow was the siege of 1453. The Ottomans brought 100,000 troops and powerful cannons, while the city had only 7,000 defenders and almost no money or allies. In the end, a fading empire met a rising one. Byzantium didn't fall in a moment. It fell after centuries of strength slowly slipping away. Do you know that the Crusaders' invasion of Constantinople, the largest Christian city of its time, became the turning point that gave Venice the power to spark the Renaissance? During their 57-year occupation of Constantinople, Venice gained vast territory and trade privileges and emerged as Europe's richest commercial empire. The Venetians carried home Byzantine art, Greek manuscripts, and classical culture, becoming Europe's largest importer of ancient knowledge. Venice soon dominated Mediterranean trade, controlling the gateway between Europe and Asia, and building the wealth that powered its artistic golden age. Venice's 57-year rule over Constantinople became a powerful accelerator, elevating the city into a global force and helping set the stage for the Renaissance.